Hey everyone, another episode of Genesis Podcast where we demystify some of the complicated blockchain topics and really explain in like very simple terms so that everyone can understand and everyone can follow and also learn more about blockchain projects and what blockchain technology. So we'll just go over an intro. I'll just start and then we'll go and then we'll just dive into the topic of today, which is going to be DePIN, which is decentralized physical infrastructure networks, very involved with like decentralizing hardware rental, hardware usage. So I'm Bulent. I'm the founder of Move Network. We're a layer two blockchain that brings Move smart contracts onto Ethereum. We use Optimism as the Optimism stack for our technology, and we're going to add ZK proofs so that we can limit, like, let's make it the fraud proof, withdrawal period very short. And so, yeah, our guest is Alex. Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, guys, would love it. Thanks so much for having me on this podcast. So, as they said, my name is Alex Golding. I'm a venture capitalist, means I'm an investor here at Delphi Digital. Delphi has four divisions, right? We've got a research division, which you probably know about. We put out the best buy side research in the space. Like many people have commented on it, whether it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to Ethereum, whether it was Solana the monolithic, and we recently released Solana the modular, whether it was our privacy report, stablecoins, whatever. Like we're doing it. We have a consulting division where we create token economies for people, do some governance work, do some bespoke research, like deep dives. Like if someone wants like a product bible or something, we can do that for them. Well, they can do that for them. It's a separate division. There's a Delphi Labs, which is an incubator, and like kind of where we home grow, or where Delphi Labs grows its own teams. They've released two formerly unicorn DeFi products. They've released the world's first MiCA compliant launchpad, Cosmos inscriptions protocol called Asteroids protocol, and incubating MetalX, which is the world's kind of first semi-autonomous limited liability DAO creation protocol. And they pioneered a new primitive there called Borgs because it's like partially meat space but partially cybernetic. So it's really cool. And then investments, right? That's where I sit. We do typically pre-seed and seed, sometimes Series A or later. The sweet spot is 500K to $2 million checks. And we have a pretty in-depth process, right? Like Delphi was born out of this ethos of being a research firm. And so we dive deep, and because we dive deep, we provide a lot of feedback, and we're very helpful to our portfolio companies. Everything from go to market, to protocol design, to corporate strategy, product design, what have you. We've got an opinion often, and so um, that's what we like to be, right? We like to find great founders, work with them, and give them the kind of the gas for their jetpack. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything runs on gas, and and so that's it, right? And we typically invest in four core areas of DeFi, infrastructure, gaming, and AI. We've been very active even this year, active last year in the bear, because again, we're just looking to find a few winners in a couple categories, in a few categories. We will look at other categories, like we look at RWAs, we look at middleware, other things, but the plurality of our investments fall into those kind of four categories. About me, I've been here 2 years and about 9 months. Prior to this, I was briefly at Solana Labs while I was getting my MBA. I worked for the ecosystem fund there. Before that, for 4.5 years, I had a crypto conference and advisory company. So yes, that's Delphi to me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. What about you, Martin?
Yeah, amazing intro, man. Like, what is there better than an intro like this, right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
for the listeners, I am Martin, your marketing guy. The listeners got to know me on the last episode where we talked with Bullet, and now we have this special guest here. So, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here again and see what we got for Deep In today, and see a little bit more how Moved can help in these situations. What is Delphi and Alex visions on this? And yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, I'll start the first question, and then let's just talk about we start talking about like DePIN, And so blockchain has it's an infrastructure project, but it helps with different project types. This could be like NFTs, identity, decentralized, finance and gaming, social fi. One of the biggest topics that is like really booming around this time is DePIN. DePIN is decentralized physical infrastructure networks. So, Alex, you have a lot of experience, especially with from Delphi. You have a lot of investments into the DePIN infrastructure and projects. And can you describe like what is that DePIN? And then we'll go into like a little more detail afterwards.
Yeah, so I think DePin's usually constructed with like kind of three tenets, right? The first is instead of having one single company build up an infrastructure stack, they decentralize it, right? They distribute that to the kind of the edge. And that kind of follows in the core ethos of crypto, right? I like to say Bitcoin was the first DePIN network, right? And so and then there's that. Then yeah, and you need to have you need to have something physical, like it's in the name. And then typically there's some type of the token model, there's some type of consumption model in the token econ, right? So it's emitting, it's you're like mining or earning tokens, but then you also somehow need to like use the tokens in the network. I've recently been pitched some DePIN networks that don't have that, and it really concerns me because it puts tremendous sell pressure on the tokens, right? Like if people just think that these aren't worth anything, I better sell them before the price crashes. Then how do you build a community? How do you build momentum? How do you build sustainability? So anyways, I'm on a tangent. We're going to talk about token econ later, but I think it's top of mind, and I want to make sure that listeners hear this kind of from the get-go, right? Like you need to be looking at a system that's got a comprehensive like token economy.
Yeah. And let's talk about like DePIN has a few words and it's an abbreviation. It's decentralized. There's physical, and it's an infrastructure and the network. Can we like go into like each word, a keyword, and explain like how is it decentralized? How is it a physical infrastructure, and then why is it a network? Like can we like maybe explain to the audience like what these individual keywords mean?
Yeah, I think it's best done with examples, right? So the kind of the canonical one that still has a lot of mind share today is helium, right? So helium started out, they had this idea that if they built some type of infrastructure that no one had ever used before, people would find use cases for it and build on top of it. So they started paying out, or so they started letting people earn rewards for kind of being a part of the network and bootstrapping the network. And what does that mean? People literally purchase physical infrastructure that I think Helium was manufacturing, or maybe they contract out to a third party. I don't remember. Shipped it to people, and people set it up wherever. And in the beginning, like rewards were really big, so it caught fire. Um, and so you had this overabundance of like physical infrastructure built out, and unfortunately, no one ended up using it. And because of that, they had to pivot, and so they pivoted into like a mobile. They've got multiple networks now. They got mobile, they've got Wi-Fi, they've got a few others. The one that's kind of captured the imagination of the masses is mobile, right? So they're providing token subsidies now to reduce people's bills down to $20 a month. At some point, I think, and they're kind of splitting usage of the network. I think with T-Mobile, or they're leasing space from T-Mobile's network. At some point, like I think they need to there's a certain threshold amount of usage of the network at which point this becomes profitable for Helium. And so their goal is like, okay, like we built up all this supply, like can we onboard enough people to hit profitability at some point? And we're gonna kind of de-risk or speed up that adoption curve by providing people with these tokens. I haven't studied the new model in depth, but that's the core idea there, right? It's you have purchase physical infrastructure, set it up. You, the person, are at the edge of the network. Historically, it would have been a centralized company like AT&T doing this, um, and and now it's you, the individual, or a professional company. If there are professional installers, there's a whole sub economy. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Helium is like it started as like that. Those boxes that like Wi-Fi routers, basically selling
Laura one.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was Laura one. It wasn't Wi-Fi, but yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you share that internet usage with others, and then to use that you pay with the using their token. And that's where the physical infrastructure part comes. But the whole infrastructure is handled instead of one company handling a centralized way. It's handled in the blockchain as a decentralized way. So
Yeah.
that yeah.
One thing like I always like to bring this because we are speaking on Genesis podcast, which is like the main objective here is to bring this really easy for people to understand, even the newcomers, right? So if we take some key aspects here of what we are talking about, we have like blockchain, we have the physical or hardware infrastructure, and of course it's in the name already, decentralization, and this is of course like the aspect that blockchain brings in. Alex, what are your thoughts, like how does blockchain connect to this hardware and physical part, and what are like the main benefits that you see in this? Because of course, like when we talk about blockchain, we are always thinking about, like, I don't know, transparency, security, or incentivization for the community and so on. How do you see this bridge being made?
So, I mean, I think we're just getting back to like blockchain consensus or blockchain basics, right? So, you have nodes route data throughout the network. Software interacts with the nodes that lets people read or write or change data, right? And then you need validators to make sure that the data that's being propagated through the network is accurate. No one's lying to you, because if you're going to make a financial decision based upon it, you want to make sure that you've got accurate information. And the blockchain provides that kind of opaque but viewable, like transparent but view but opaque at the same time, kind of, or anonymized um, back end bookkeeping system for all this to happen, and it coordinates the traffic going through the nodes. And there's a consensus algorithm that makes sure that all the data is correct, or at least is verified. It has been verified. It's not necessarily correct. It's been verified that it is attested to be true.
Yeah.
Um,
And in a way, it also helps with the like when you go talked about like the tokenization and the incentivization. The incentivization is handled by the blockchain itself as well instead of a centralized entity. You basically put in the rules, and then the blockchain handles that as well. We talked about the first project, which was Helium, and then but there we see a lot of like more development in the especially in the AI space, AI hardware space, and Delphi is invested in a few of them. How do you can we talk about some of the like examples that maybe Delphi is involved and or not involved in the DePIN space?
Got it. Yeah, happy to, guys. So, right, in AI, the one that comes to mind first and foremost is IONET, right? IONET, um, let me, IONET has a collection, or is kind of a marketplace for GPU rentals. So people come on demand find GPU access. Um, they launched a few months ago. It's quite an interesting project. There are competitors, right? There's Akash, there's Render, there's others, but we think that IONET's core IT and the way they allow for the splitting up of tasks and the management of memory and like data routing across disparate heterogeneous computers or servers across the world is, top notch and far beyond its competitors. And then there are others, right? So um, in the AI space, I think that's the only marketplace one we've done. And um, I'm trying to think of, like, there's going to be others that are going to be building out like proof. Uh, I can't speak to everything. There's one that we haven't announced yet, so I can't speak to that. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a few like emerging areas too, like node validators. A few of them that are going, but also I see like the future maybe new areas like maybe because for instance ZK computation is expensive. I see some like ZK computation hardware providing solutions coming out in the future as well. And something that Move Network will use in the future for our ZK proof. Do you see any like new? Do you see any like new emerging areas, or the industry? This industry is still like, just figuring it out right now.
So there's a huge swath of people building DePIN applications. Like there's Solana has attracted a lot of DePIN projects. There's something called Peak Network, which is built on the Polkadot and Substrate kind of SDKs, and they've got 30 to 50 DePINs. There's others that are building everything from there's like 3 or 4 mapping companies, right? You've got Hive Mapper, which is the OG. Um, Very talented founder there. You got Nadix, another like interesting team. There's this team building mapping for just for India. I forget their name. They were an alliance style company sometime in the last year. So a lot around mapping. You've got people measuring like sound. So they want to like use your phone. Like Silencio wants to use your phone. Sorry, to what's it called, to like as like a recorder, a microphone, and record sound levels, and then report back to various buyers of sound data. I don't know who they are, but that whether or not I guess like real estate agencies might want to know this, that's like the claim they made. Whether or not there's like a lot of sound in a certain neighborhood. Um, so you're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing satellite providers, you're seeing like weather providers, GPS providers, and it's tough. So as like an investor, it's really tough to invest into DePIN because you have to be a subject matter expert in these fields, and then you have to say to yourself, okay, like this is my opinion, right? X field, let's say GPS, is only accurate today up to, let's say, I'm pulling a number out of thin air, 30 feet, 10 feet. If we want to make it within a 2 foot radius or a 3 foot radius or 1 foot radius for ultra high precision GPS, like, is that something that can stand on its own without incentives? Is this a big enough kind of leap for there to be a target market technologically? Like, is there sufficient demand for that? And it's tough to know. Um, and so I'm getting pitched all these pitches all the time. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything at all about for instance, mining cobalt and whether or not, you know, providing incentives for that is going to help. That's clearly an exaggeration, but that's kind of how it feels sometimes as the investor.
Yeah. So basically, the benefits it's hard to tell. Like yeah, there are different technical benefits, maybe business benefits, but you kind of like you don't know what the customer will benefit the most from these different dimensions, basically.
Yeah. So I think that for a DePIN network to work, I think Helium showed this. You can't just be like, we're going to do something that has no use case or no demand, and now that there's supply, people will come. That doesn't work. I think you need something that has some type of demand, and if they had access to more of it, then it's a business, and you speed up that. And so basically, it would normally take X number of years to get to that point, and you are pulling that demand forward in time by providing people reward for participating in the network.
Yeah. So that kind of that
Yeah,
incentive back
that's the incentive flywheel. And
stake
so what
stake
I'm
him
saying,
back. Yeah.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like as an investor, I don't know enough about all these industries to be able to validate whether or not like this plan is going to work,
Yeah. Do you
right?
do you think that certain areas are all like I would say I listened to a podcast from the founders of IONet, and it does seem like they have sort of figured out actually to make like this the product market fit. They figured it out, and it's sort of like a hybrid model right now. It's not fully decentralized, and their goal is to be fully decentralized. By hybrid, I mean they manage vet some of the hardware providers themselves. They work directly with some hardware providers to vet out the quality of the AI hardware machines to be provided to the customers. But they kind of have this like figured out. Do you think like do you notice from these pitches? Do you notice some of these areas are like consolidated and like validated, and some of them are still like being in the middle? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to like chips and providing data and giving people access to data flows, like you're going to see a lot of people move slowly there towards full permissionlessness. Like that's what I think I heard. That's what I interpreted when you said kind of centralized is like the is this fully permissioned or fully permissionless access access and exit from the network as a node provider, and because yeah, you need to make sure that the hardware people are using is good enough. B, you need to make sure that people aren't like violating sanctions laws, like OFAC stuff. You don't want like the entire treasury of the protocol to be tainted because like a sanctioned country or people or like terrorist organizations or like contribute to the network. Um, Beyond that, like I'm sure there's reasons why people would want to slow roll it. Um, but yeah, a lot of people pitch this kind of like delegated proof of stake or this we're going to do a gated rollout or a KYC rollout when it comes to node operators, which is different from Ethereum's kind of ethos of anyone, anywhere, anytime can do it, and we use crypto economic rules to like make sure that it works. I think if network loads were lower, then people would be doing this fully permissionless node provisioning kind of architecture from the beginning. But when node requirements are high, which is the case with cutting edge industries like AI, that they just want to make sure that the end user is getting a good experience. So gaming, AI, high throughput blockchains, things like that. Like you need to make sure that the hardware is good.
Yeah, talking about like different industries, and you mentioned that sometimes you received pitches from like so different industries that sometimes it even gets to a point where it's a struggle because you are not an expert in all of them, and I can feel that, I imagine that, but as we see, like this is like this narrative or this way of thinking is applicable to a lot of industries, to a wide range of industries. And having been pitched so many times and being into this world, uh, what would you say like are the industries that would benefit the most from this? Like what would be a pitch that if it was brought to you, it would like shine your eyes, or some pitches that, or some industries that you would say like, hey man, I don't think this is kind of suitable, or this doesn't fit too much. Like, could you share some insights on that as well?
Yeah, so if I could tell you what pitch would be perfect, I wouldn't be on the podcast. I'd be building that company. So I can't, right? Um, right, like,
Hey,
but I
maybe we'll come up with it, hey, right now.
do it. I love it. Let's do it. Three
The
co-founders
best answer.
here.
This was the best.
There it is. But you need to just for me I want to hear the story that there is demand for something and that there is clear trend data, and maybe it's not clear, maybe it's noisy trend data, but I want to be able to see a trend that people want this, and I want to be able to understand that there's something people can buy into. Bitcoin was fantastic because we had just had the great recession and the financial crisis of that time. We needed like an open, transparent ledger to redo the world's financial system. People had been trying to do this before, but you needed this event. It's almost like a match on a matchbook or a matchbox to like give it life. And the same with these things. I want to know that either something has happened recently that's going to do it, or that there has been this gradual trend over time that shows that it's of interest to people, right? So like when Helium pivoted from the LoRaWAN network, which had no trend data, and then once they put into production, there was no usage data, to cell phone data, like that makes sense, right? Like there's more mobile devices in existence than there are humans right now. So like that's a great target market. Um, that's what I want to know. And what is something that is too difficult for me? It's anything. I mean, anything that's not that, right? Like, it's anything where I would have to be a subject matter expert. I've got a pitch, and some ideas are just wacky. I don't want to like call out specific entrepreneurs, but I want to say like if you were to tell me that you're going to do a decentralized physical infrastructure to incentivize people to grow aliens and vats, I'm going to tell you that's probably not for us, right? Like there is probably no demand and also no technology for it. But like let's put that aside. That's a little crazy. In 5 or 10 years, maybe it's something that maybe we'll give it a second look. But today we're not. If you're going to tell me that you're going to do decentralized physical infrastructure to like cut down trees, I'm probably going to tell you that's a bad idea. If you got decentralized physical infrastructure to grow trees, that's cool because we know there's multiple markets for that, right? I think it's still tough. I don't think that's something I would necessarily back, but it's a cool idea. Um, yeah, if you could grow a tree in like a year instead of 20 years, now we'll back that. And if you need to like deploy those all over the world, I like things that have a software component, right? Hardware is tough. While we're on the topic, I think what's important to note is that DePINs at their core are Web 2 businesses with a Web 3 like incentivization layer. And so yeah, and so these things are also when you're thinking about like valuation and token and everything, like you need a very good token economy with the right amount of sync. So what? So we got faucets, right? So I'm opening a faucet on the sink right now. So you've got a faucet that like kind of emits tokens into the ecosystem, lets people earn tokens. Then you need a sink or a drain or something to like suck them back out and like hold them up. And so you want the velocity between those, and you want the velocity of sinks to be pretty high, right? Like Ethereum, there's a burn, there's staking. These are things that like remove supply from the market, whether temporarily in the case of staking or permanently in the case of the burn. Um, but you want a good token economy, um, because at some point this project, and probably in the not too far future, will be valued purely on fundamentals, right? Like the token incentives are there to again pull demand forward, and if you fail at pulling demand forward, you fail. So and your token's going to go to zero. Like Helium dropped from 48 or 50 down to 2, had this big pivot, and if they hadn't pivoted, I think they would have gone below 1, right? Like and so they've done a great job. Um,
So the token incentivization is actually, I was going to ask, like, the utility of the token is very important. We talked about this before earlier. What are the some what are some of the, you get pitched a lot about this, so I want to hear your thoughts on, like, or examples of token utilization for different deep in projects, and what kind of categories do you notice?
so again, it all comes down to faucets and sinks, right? Um, do you have a sustainable model that gives out just enough tokens in the beginning for rewarding people for participating in the network, and also give them enough reason to hold on to it? um, and not only hold on, but also maybe put it to work. How do you give it utility to put it to work? Because if there's no utility, then at the end of the day, it's worthless, right? Like, or maybe not completely worthless, but that's one leg of the supporting analysis when people do analysis on the token, when they decide whether or not to hold it or not, that that's gone. So you need some type of usually there's some type of consumption model like I mentioned earlier, some type of consumption in there, um, other reasons, yeah.
Like for like io.net, do you know their tokenization model? Let's say like I'm a provider. How do I know I get tokens, and then, but I'm only a provider. I'm not gonna run more AI models afterwards because I'm not into the AI. I'm a provider. Is there how is that the circulation happens, if you're familiar with that?
Yeah, so I don't remember their token model offhand, right? I didn't lead that deal. I was involved in it, and like knew the Tory Green and some of the other people.
Or the one that
Can't speak
you're familiar with. We can talk about an example of like token utility that's like really nicely flows, has this nice flywheel. Maybe a good example if you can think of. Maybe we can share that.
Yeah, so I mean, again, like I mentioned, like it's one where they are like consuming it. So I think you need like mobile token in order to like you used to need like mobile or Wi-Fi token in order to provide like those services on Helium's network. I don't remember. I haven't studied like a bunch of their token econs in a long time, right? Like, so I don't want to speak to any one specific app. I have not led a deep in investment here at Delphi, and or been involved in like deeply involved in one in some time. So I don't want to speak to that because I can't speak with confidence today.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. What is Delphi's like? So Delphi's in general investor thesis, and is it like a set model, or is it changing and evolving?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, right, we do pre-seed and seed, sometimes Series A or later, 500K to $2 million checks. Um, We look at everything, but the plurality of our investments are in infrastructure, AI, gaming, uh, and DeFi. So so that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a few conversations about DeFi too. DeFi is like a really uh, big industry, and it has direct like effect or like use case with blockchain because sending money or tokens directly. So there's definitely like development there. I would have some questions about that, but I really want to keep it to like deep in. And lastly, I want to ask about like the future of DePIN and where maybe where do you see it going? Do you think this is gonna like you know grow and we're gonna see different project ideas that we never thought of, or do you think there's like a finite number of things we can explore in DePIN space?
So I think people are gonna use DeepIn for everything, right? Like if you look at the classic Web 2 entrepreneurship model of the last 15 years, it's been remove the price, remove all barriers to entry. So no price, everything's freemium, um, or completely free. We just sell your data to marketers, right? That was the trend. And then Web 3 came along, and people were like, "Oh wow, uh, I can incentivize people to participate in the network, and in doing so, like reward them or pay them, or reward them for participating, and to just push that even further. So people are going to use this for anything and everything they can, right? You've got Blackbird for reservations, like the restaurant reservations. There was someone else who wanted. There's like loyalty programs. There's orchestrating compute networks. You're gonna see people. There's satellites, like I mentioned, and GPS. There was a special type of like Wi-Fi, almost like Wi-Fi. I forget what you call it. There's a demo which I think you like plug that into your car, and it records whether or not you're a good driver, and then like helps you write like a custom. I think that's what demo does. I forget. There's a bunch. I think that's it. Yeah. I forget what they all do. There's a lot. Some are better than others. Some exist, I think, only because crypto lets them exist, right? They're kind of like zombie companies hoping for a big break. Um, but that's everything in life, right? Not everything's going to be a winner. Not everything's going to be straight to zero. There's a lot of gray in life. So, yeah, so do your research, right? People need to do their research when they're looking into these things. You need to put on your fundamental analysis hat. You need to say, do some scenario analysis, say, is there demand in the market? How much is this demand going to grow? What if I'm wrong and it just grows completely bonkers? What if it grows medium? What if it grows a little? And do your analysis in that way.
And now, like hanging on to this answer, I guess it is a consensus in between all three of us that DePIN is going to continue evolving, and as Alex said, in the future, like we will use it for pretty much everything. And now, let me throw the question a bit back to you, Bullet. And we're talking Move Network. We are talking about evolution, right? We are talking about something that is being built. It's being designed to evolve over the next years. And now we are taking a look at DePIN, which is also a really relevant subject. And now, from the Move Network perspective, how would you see Move supporting or even integrating deep in narratives, deep in projects or protocols as it continues to evolve?
Hmm. Yeah, very good, very good. Thanks for bringing that up. I see it like helping in basically in two aspects. First and foremost is the asset organization, asset resource organization. We use Move language for our smart contracts. As Move is similar to a little bit similar to like the account model is similar to like Solana, where resources are kept in the account instead of the smart contract itself. So this allows more secure way of like restoring those assets. So like DPIN is about like hardware assets and like physical representation of the asset on blockchain. It really help to be like protect and have a safe, like secure way of like representing the assets and move smart contract. The other aspect I see it is like because Move Network is not isolated, like a separate blockchain that's completely isolated from the rest of the, let's say, Ethereum ecosystem. We're part of the Ethereum ecosystem as a layer two. You'll be able to like exchange your assets with another assets on, let's say, base blockchain, because Move is gonna be part of the super chain, Optimism super chain. You can exchange with assets from basically base token with like anything on the base blockchain or Optimism itself, or go back all the way like L1 Ethereum. So this creates more like liquidity and use case, increases the number of use cases for the DePIN tokens that people create using Move Network. It also not only create the liquidity, but also create that this fast way of like withdrawing, depositing, and using in a very secure way. So I see like helping both on the business side, on the token utility, and also the like asset protection. So we think that Move Network really can help, can become one of the actually prominent like blockchain use cases on Ethereum right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess from now on, Alex, when he receives a pitch from a DePIN project, he will take a look and he will ask like, is it deployed on Move Network? If yes, then here's your check. If not, then we can talk next time, right?
I, that is, I'm putting that in my due diligence questionnaire.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. Alex, you mentioned about like brainstorming and ideas. I actually came up with an interesting idea, like maybe like a decentralized Uber can be, like a deep in idea. Maybe like you provide the cars, you purchase the like decentralized car per se, and then you drive it to drive people around, and then you earn tokens. We can
Yeah, so this
call it
exists.
Duber.
Yeah, so this exists, and at least on Teleport on Solana, and I think someone just launched another one somewhere else. So I'd rather, yeah, so I'd rather not comment on this idea because it's a live project.
Yeah, that sounds good because I just like just thinking about like all the hardware related like projects that can be on the blockchain. Um,
I really like decentralized physical infrastructure networks um, that are like what's the word? Yeah, like it's interesting because you have to ask stuff like provenance there, right? Like, how do we know that the network from the nodes being, I guess, the computer chips on the cars, are telling you the truth? And you've kind of got like multiple sources of truth there. You've got the user, the client, and then the provider providing data. If there's a conflict between the two, um, then you know that there's like a malicious actor in your network versus the IoT device one, where you just got the IoT devices, and how do you know that they haven't been compromised? It's quite an issue, I think, um, with DePIN is accuracy of the accuracy of the propagated data. Uh,
do
yeah,
you
and so
do
sorry,
you
yes.
do you think that responsible? Let's like let's say we're working at Move Network to build provide those solutions to the builders. Do you think is there like software tools need to be built, or basic
No,
blockchain
it,
itself is enough?
it's an Oracle system. So like what kind of firmware do you have that hardens up the the actual hardware itself to prevent tampering at the hardware level, to prevent tampering at the software level? Like just because like there's a malicious node in the network, like if people can physically access, let's say, a cluster of IoT devices, can they modify all of them? Can they do it in a way that either if they do it physically, is there a way to tell from a software perspective or from some other countermeasure that this has happened? If they do it remotely, is there a way to like tell that these nodes have been compromised? And just this is an age old problem of trust when it comes to computers. I don't think it's unique to blockchains. Um,
I think you described it very well. Oracle problem. That's kind of explains
yeah,
it.
it's an Oracle issue. Yeah.
and now a quick question related to my field, right? As I said, I'm the marketing guy of Moved and so on, and I would say during the coming weeks now, and as we process and upload and share this episode to our listeners and so on, we will also probably see some Delphi research coming out and being shared by the Move Network account as well. And I'm curious, does Delphi already have or some kind of research, some kind of thesis on DePIN that people can access, read about it, and see a bit more, learn a bit more, and get into this topic?
I appreciate that. So we did put out. I helped co-author a pollen versus helium piece. Pollen, which is why I can speak to helium. Pollen has since gone out of business, or the founder decided that he did not want to be a crypto project. So I think they're still in business, but they're not a DePIN project anymore. Um, we have some. I think we have some research on DePIN networks, but we don't. We don't. I don't think. Yeah, I think we put out. We've got a bunch of stuff on AI, including AI market DePIN marketplaces. Um, I think that's the closest thing to DePIN that we put out lately. I don't know. Um, I don't think we've really done a deep dive on DePIN anymore. Maybe in the year ahead for infrastructure, if I remember right. I think that they discussed it a bit. Um, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, all those examples you mentioned are already like super related to this, and I will pass this on to our listeners, right? So we will hear from them what they think and see the results, like if they like this kind of research, if they're interested into deepin, and from there on we get a feedback circle, right? From there on we can maybe even have more research on that if that's what the market needs, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. That's that's a great way to like close. You have any like closing statements, Alex or Martin, before we end the episode?
Yeah, for me, I just want to let everyone know that if you've got an idea, our DMs are open. Just find me on Twitter, right? My handle is Gold, or my name is Golding on Twitter. My handle is Helped Hope, which is the name of my old company, and I haven't found a good replacement handle yet. Um, and so just send me a DM. My DMs are open. And if you're building on Move Network, send me a DM. My DMs are open. So yeah, looking forward to receiving some interesting pitches from some awesome entrepreneurs.
Martin, do you have any thoughts before we end the episode?
Yeah, once again, I wanted to thank Alex for joining us, for sharing his insights on like this broad industry as we see that DePIN is, and connecting to our listeners and to people who maybe want to share their ideas further and so on. We will share this all over our socials and our communities and so on. And from there, everyone who's like minimally interested will be able to reach, will be able to read the research, will be able to connect with you guys. And I guess this is what we are all about. And this is also, I guess, a core value of Moved, which is connect things, right? Make things operate together and contribute even more to the ecosystem. So once again, thank you, Alex, for joining. And thank you, Bullet, for the opportunity of another episode. I guess this was like a rich episode in knowledge for our listeners, right?
100%. Yeah, thanks for joining. We're launching our DevNet pretty soon, and we're hoping to have some deepin projects launched on our network. Alex, thanks for joining again, and Martin joining. Thanks for joining again. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.
See you guys.